Today we're talking about what's in store in 2024. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Stay tuned. We've got some great information about what's happening in the Atlanta real estate market and what you need to know. Hey everybody, my name is Chris Evans. I am a former stockbroker turned realtor, real estate investor, and author. And throughout 2024, my goal is to empower you with everything you need to know about investing, buying, selling, and transacting in real estate in the Metro Atlanta market. I hope you'll follow me on this journey as I try to educate, entertain slightly, and provide examples of what you can do to make smart decisions for your finances using real estate or preparing to become a homeowner one day. My goal is to help people make smart financial decisions that will put them on a path to really enjoying life. If you didn't know this, a few years ago there was a study that said that the difference in net worth between a renter and a homeowner was over $195,000. It said that the average net worth of a renter was about $5,000 and the average net worth of a homeowner was about $200,000. Now, that's pretty stark numbers. That's a big difference, but that's also pre-pandemic. So those numbers were before we went through the inflation, the crazy bidding wars of the pandemic years, and now we're actually looking at a much different number. So if you owned a home pre-pandemic versus being a renter, now your net worth on average should be $280,000 if you're a homeowner. If you were a renter then, you're still a renter now, your net worth should be about $8,000. So everybody went up, but definitely not in the same scale. You make $3,000 extra over the last 3 years, or you make $80,000 over the last 3 years, really shows the difference in what owning assets does for you. So we're going to talk through how we can own assets, what this process looks like. We're going to talk about what's going to happen in the real estate market, because there's lots of folks out there that think that a crash is still coming. We're going to talk about what's going to happen with interest rates. We're talking about the Fed, their expectations. We're going to talk about that in this video. But I want you to know why we do this. So there's a lot of challenges that are happening in the real estate market. We're going to start off with some of the lawsuits. We're going to talk about commissions because that's on everybody's mind. That is what's been in the news, the lawsuits against realtors, the realtors who are charging a 6% commission and they're not varying that. And real estate commissions are supposed to be negotiable in real estate. And guess what? With my firm, they are. We own several firms that give consumers choice. So from this channel, I'm going to be providing information not just on what's happening in the real estate market. We're going to not just give you education tips on what's happening in the contracts, but we're going to talk about why we market properties certain ways. I want to empower you. I want you to know what you can do, because we'd love to help you. But we do know that sometimes there's not margin in a deal, especially if you're an investor. How are you going to afford to have somebody that's going to take this big weight off of your shoulders? Well, we're going to talk through a lot of that and some of the different brands that we own as well that can supplement that. Because if you do want to sell on your own, check out simplylistatlanta.com. SimplyList is our transaction brokerage. It's owned by Select Realty, and my wife operates that division. That will allow you to sell your house by owner at a much lower commission rate. And you can hopefully use some of the tips and tricks, marketing tactics that we do on this channel to sell the house on your own. And if you can't, then we're here to help as well. So we'll tell some of our success stories, some of our failures, because we are not infallible. We are human, but we do have failures. But there's things that we do that mitigate the risk of that happening in transactions, and they're very few and far between, but we will talk about some of the failure points and how we can avoid those. My commitment to you is that this year, you can expect a video a week from me, and that's going to be putting out content aimed at empowering you to make the best decisions that you can. We'll talk development, we'll talk what's happening, We'll talk all of these things as we go through the year. But most importantly, I want to wish everybody a very joyous new year. Everybody's always going through challenges. Sometimes you're on top of the mountain and sometimes you're buried within it. But we hope that wherever you are in life, we're going to be able to bring some joy, some value, and help put you on a transaction or on a trajectory where you'll be able to make a transaction that transforms your life. Because it did with us. And my wife and I, we published a book last summer. It's called From the Ground Up: How Two Millennial High School Sweethearts Built a Multi-million-dollar Real Estate Portfolio, and you can too. It's a great book. It's a quick read. It's only 110 pages, but there's no fluff. It is straight to the point, what we did, what moves we made, and how it impacted us. So let's talk about what's going to happen this year. Where is real estate? Are we going to see a crash? And what will that crash look like if we do? We have a lot of people on the sidelines. We have for years. We have buyers who had a down payment saved up in 2019 and then got outbid through 2020 and 2021 and 2022. And then it became too costly with the interest rates for them to make any moves in 2023. Well, there's some good news on the horizon if you are in that boat. One, prices aren't going to drop. The big drop that we saw was in December and January of 22 to 23. We had the biggest dip from our peak to valley that we've seen in quite some time. So we track about the last 13 years worth of data. And historically, prices are at the highest in June or July, and then they're at the lowest in January. That's just the way it works. We have the most people moving in the summer, the fewest people moving in December with the holidays. So the contracts that go under in December, they close in January, and they have the least favorable terms for the seller. There's less buyers. There's also less competition, so it depends. So sometimes the homes that are getting sold in that time period, they do need more work. They might be the homeowner special, the handyman special. But for a whole, 2022 to 23, we saw the biggest drop. It was 12.5%. Our median sales price in June was $400,000, and our median sales price in January was $349,000 or $350,000. It's a $50,000 drop. That's 12.5%. We usually don't see that. Usually we see 5.5% to 7%, and that's where we are this year. So while we saw a big drop last year, this year, our dip from peak to valley was about 6%. We hit $399,000 for our high last year. So we didn't meet the 2022 high, but we came within $1,000 of that. Now, this is the median sales price for our market. It varies by zip code, it varies by school district, varies by neighborhood. So just know that this is not something that you can take and apply this to your own personal property. You would need a valuation. There are areas that took a dip. There are areas that grew. As a whole, our market almost met the high that we set the year prior. And this is with higher interest rates too. So going in through December, we did have historic lows for the number of sales that closed. It was under 4,000. It was like 3,900 and change closings in December. But what's interesting is that our sales price was up 5.6% year over year from December of 22. Our inventory is down from 2.9 months supply to 2.5 months supply. And with down inventory and up prices, what that means is that we are starting to see the signs of a healthy market coming back. Interest rates have declined. In December, the Fed held the interest rates the same. But that's not the most important part about what came out of the Fed in December. So when the Fed announces whether they're going to keep the rates the same or increase the rates or decrease rates, that's not the only piece of news they give us. They give us the notes and the minutes from their meetings. They also set a guideline or an expectation that we may see up to 3 rate hikes in 2024. That's important because the previous language that the Fed was using was that we can expect that they're going to hold rates higher for longer. That was only 3 or 4 months ago that they started announcing that. That was end of this summer, end of last summer. So now that they're saying, well, we can look at starting rate drops in 24, that's actually pretty significant. And initially I thought, well, we should probably start seeing those rate drops Q3, Q4 24. No. The most recent article that I read talks about foreign currency and the value of the dollar declining. The dollar was so strong because interest rates were so high. As interest rates come down, the value of that dollar relative to other countries will come down as well. That's why you're seeing the spike in gold right now. And they are pricing in the first rate drop to happen around March, April. So if the rate drop happens around March, April, we're going to see more favorable rates start coming in the mortgage world. But Chris, they kept rates the same. Why didn't, and rates have been dropping. What's going on there? Well, your interest rates right now are priced in differently than they have been historically. There's been a lot of unknowns, and with unknowns comes risk. Well, a risk in the financial world is priced in. So they just assign a price to that risk. And historically, you're going to have 150 to 200 basis points. That means 1.5% to 2% higher for your mortgage rate than whatever the 10-year treasury is typically doing. Why the 10-year treasury? My mortgage is 30 years. The average mortgage is held for about 10. Most people will buy or sell their house within 10 years. When that happens, it pays off the mortgage. So even though it's a 30-year mortgage, in the investment world, it operates very similar to the 10-year treasury. Okay, so historically, we've been 1.5% to 2% higher for mortgage rates than we have been the treasury. Well, why have rates started dropping? Well, rates have been priced in for the last 18 months at 3%. So a full 100 basis points higher. And that's risk because they don't know. Is inflation going to last 5 years, or is inflation going to get under control really quickly? If inflation gets under control really quickly, then a lot of these mortgages that they wrote for the last 2 years are already going to be refied. In December, we started seeing some refinances happen already. My attorney did. So if we're looking at risk being priced in and the Fed did not change rates, the reduction in interest rates that have happened over the last 2 weeks have really come from risk being priced out of those loans. There's less risk in them, so we're going to get closer to what that historical margin has been for mortgage rates. If the Fed does make a decrease, we can expect to see more favorable rates coming for buyers. Follow along. We're going to give you a lot more insight, a lot of information. Expect a video a week coming from me. But just know that 2024, there's a whole lot in store. And we hope that it's going to be amazing for you. We hope that some of these tools, these tips that we provide throughout this series are going to help you make that happen. I'm Chris Evans. Thanks for watching.